Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News Digital Desk. A deadly intersection in Ashtabula County is going to be getting an update. This is the intersection at Clay Street and Sexton Road that saw a 4-year-old killed at that intersection in late December of this year. A horrible story that happened there, and now Ashtabula County is doing something about it. That is now going to become a 4-way stop, a massive improvement for the area that was only a 2-way stop previously. Now, initially, it was a 2-way stop and improvements were made. There were more signs added, there were more alerts added, things like that, and that helped. Then this year came, and this year saw quite a few accidents and ultimately that death. And that death is leading to these changes. We spoke earlier today with the commissioner there about specifically why this is being happened, or why this has been happening, and why they felt the need to make these changes. Here's what they had to say. Just to start off, if you don't mind, explain for those that are unfamiliar this intersection in particular. We had done a story on this when there was a really awful situation that happened a couple of weeks ago here. If you don't mind just breaking down the problems that we're seeing and now ultimately these changes as well.
Sure. What we're talking about here is the intersection of Clay Street and Sexton Road in Austinburg Township in Ashtabula County. This intersection has actually been a problem for probably close to 20 years in our county, and progressively over the years, there's been multiple modifications to this intersection made to make it safer. Most recently would be in 2022, the rendition of changes to the intersection were made. In 2022, we actually had 5 accidents at the intersection, which prompted us to work with the county engineer to make some modifications. Some modifications that were made included the addition of flashing stop signs on Sexton Road, heading both north and southbound. Also removed vegetation at that intersection to make visibility much more clear, and then also added signage making it clear that traffic does not stop on Clay Street. In 23, those modifications worked. We ultimately had only 1 incident at that intersection. But something, again, is happening, and it's prompted, again, more issues at that intersection, and we had 5 accidents again in 2024. The most recent one being the tragic situation with the death of a 4-year-old just a couple weeks ago. So after that, we felt it was most definitely time for us to take another look and to seek additional modifications there.
What I find really interesting about this is there's a lot of effort that you're all going through to make this safe, and there was that belief that it did work. Do you know why specifically more updates were needed, why the previous changes weren't as successful as you all would have hoped?
You know, I think it perhaps is a number of factors, but we don't have that exact reason. So I think really the important thing for us to do was to take another look, at the intersection, see perhaps what's contributing to this, and see if we can find kind of perhaps some commonalities amongst the accidents that are occurring there. And that's exactly what the county engineer did. The county engineer, as a result of the request by the county commissioners, conducted a study of that intersection and looked at a number of ways that improvements could be made to this intersection to make it safer and to prevent tragedies like the most recent one we experienced just a few weeks ago. And we are very appreciative of our county engineer, Tim Martin. He turned that study around very quickly and ultimately made the ultimate recommendation of making that a 4-way stop. And what's important about that as well is the fact that this 4-way stop will also include the flashing stop signs at the intersection, much like we have on Sexton. So now those will be on Clay, making it clear that you must stop. And it's our hope that these changes will certainly be for the better, and that folks will see this become a safer intersection in the future.
The idea, right, of saying, well, why wasn't it just a 4-way stop? I mean, it's not as easy as just saying this should be a 4-way stop and doing it, right? These things take time. They take studies. They take analysis here. Did it take the ultimate push of seeing many more accidents before to ultimately get to this point, or were there already discussions prior to the accidents that we saw about potentially making that a 4-way stop before this year began?
I would say there certainly were, I think, conversations. Perhaps there's more opportunities to make it safer. No question. The most recent incident also contributed to seeking, changes there. And I have to thank certainly the residents that have been very vocal about seeing some changes made. Have to also express appreciation to our engineer for kind of getting right on it and looking at any number of options that could be made there. And ultimately he followed through on that study and is going to make this change. I will tell you, a change, it doesn't, to your point, does not happen just instantly. Anytime there's a modification made, there's both pros and cons to that. So it's not as simple as saying that this should have been made a four-way stop years ago, because there's a multiple a number of factors that go into that. But ultimately, they've looked at all those things, and here in this situation, it's appropriate that this becomes a four-way stop into the future.
Just a couple more questions here. The first. Yeah, so obviously a massive improvement expected to come here. That is very much so needed in response to the horrific death that took place in December. Want more stories of the day? You want more information on this? Head to our website right now, cleveland19.com. We have all of that latest information there, in addition to more context related to this area as well. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great night. Much more to come, both on air and online.
19 News, now streaming on Samsung Smart TV. Search for channel 1035.